Sorry, Jill, should we get started or should we continue?
Sure. Why don't we get started and I will text Lori and see if I can just make sure that.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So good evening, everyone, and welcome to a joint town board, village board meeting between the town of Newcastle and the village of Pleasantville. I'm Ivy Poole. I'm the town supervisor for the town of Newcastle. And this is our annual joint meeting to discuss our joint interest in the Millwood water treatment plant. And we do this once a year to review operations and to discuss sort of planned improvements and initiatives at the Millwood water treatment plant for the future. So perhaps the first thing we should do is just sort of go around and have the respective board members introduce themselves. So maybe we'll have the Newcastle board first, and we're short a couple members here tonight. So Lisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Katz, Newcastle Town Board member.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Levin. I'm a Newcastle Town Board member.
And that's it for Newcastle's side of the side of the Zoom table, as it were.
That's a quorum, right?
It's a quorum.
Yes, it is.
So on the Pleasantville side, I'm Peter Shearer, the mayor.
I'm Nicole Asquith, village trustee.
I'm David Vinjamori, village trustee.
Paul Alvarez, village trustee.
Then also on the Pleasantville side, Eric Morrissey, administrator, and Noreen Regan as well.
Great, and we're joined by Jill Shapiro, who's our town administrator, and Rob Deary, who's our town controller and deputy administrator. So now that we've introduced ourselves, should we just go ahead and turn it over to, I don't know if this is to John or Paul.
John.
John, I'm sorry. I just want to take note that Eric Morrissey, the Pleasantville village manager, is present as well. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Okay.
Just let me know when you want the presentation up.
Okay, we're ready. You can set it up. All right, so good evening, everybody. For you that don't know me, my name is John Young. I'm the plant manager of the Millwood Water Plant. With me tonight is John Arnett. He's the area manager for the Northeast region for Suez. I'd like to thank the town board's members from the town of Newcastle and the village of Pleasantville for giving me the opportunity to present this presentation tonight. We'll begin the presentation with an overview of Suez. We'll talk about the operating team at Millwood. We'll talk about plant operations and performance, project improvements, community support, and then we'll conclude with questions and answers. Next slide.
For those that don't know me, I'm John Arnett. I actually worked at Millwood. I started there way back when in my career, and now I'm an area manager with Suez. We go back to that slide. So Suez, we're the second largest environmental service firm in North America. You can see our little bullet points there. We do also treat over 600 million gallons of water, 450 million gallons of wastewater each day. Rehabilitate and maintain water assets for more than 6,000 municipal and industrial customers. We'll do the next slide. So you can see here our corporate office is located in Paramus, New Jersey. We do have 15 utilities, 69 environmental service contracts, and 20 advanced solutions.
I'm sorry, it's moving on its own. Hang on one second.
No problem.
Happened last year too. Decided to take off.
And along with this footprint, we do have about a little over 3,000 employees that work on the environmental sustainability and leading all the resource revolution that Suez has to offer.
John, you're a little faint. Maybe move a little closer to the microphone.
Oh, sorry about that. We can go to the next one.
John, can you hear me?
Yep. So here's just a little history of Suez, North America. Suez was founded in Paris, but you can see back in 1869, our predecessor was the Hackensack Water Company. And you can kind of see all the iterations that we've gone through throughout the years, moving up to 2011. And if you go to the next slide, you can continue to see how we've built over the years up until now. And one of our biggest acquisitions in the past 3 years was acquiring the GE Water and Processing Technologies, which not only further helps all the Suez offerings.
Can anybody hear me? I've lost my sound.
Yep, we hear you, John.
I'll try chatting him so he knows.
I can email him the phone number to listen in on. Sorry. Oh, hang on 1 second.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It just stopped working. I don't understand.
John, we can hear you, John Young.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, tell John that we can hear him.
I can't hear anybody though, Paul.
Okay.
I've lost I think it's this volume here. It says your default phone has changed to external.
I mean, if you want to go ahead and speak, we can still follow you.
You're kidding me. How do you turn the, they say they can hear me. I just can't.
Maybe we can mute John though, because I don't know if he realizes, despite that phone call, that we can hear him.
Hang on, I'm just going to put the phone number in the chat and maybe he can use that to listen. And I'll email it just in case he's not going to look at his email right now. Does somebody want, if he can't hear us, can somebody?
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Okay.
I apologize. Something went wrong. Okay. Okay. In 2019, the operating team at Millwood started out with a staff of 9 employees. We had the plant manager, assistant plant manager, senior operator, and 4 shift operators. By the end of 2019, we had lost 3 of our 2A certified operators. The New York State Health Department requires that the plant manager have a 1A certification to manage a water treatment plant that treats 2.5 million gallons per day or more. We're fortunate at Millwood that we had actually have 3 certified 1A operators. Next slide, please. At the Millwood Water Treatment Plant, we have 2 raw water sources that we can treat. So we can use the Catskill, which is our primary supply, and the New Croton, which is our backup supply. The raw water goes through 5 stages of treatment before it goes out to distribution. The first stage is a rapid mixers where coagulant is added to the water to form floc. The second stage of treatment is the floculator tanks where floc particles are allowed to grow. Our third stage of treatment is the DAF, or dissolved air flotation process, where microscopic air bubbles remove the floc particles. Our fourth stage of treatment is our ozone contact tanks, where the flocculated water is disinfected. Then our fifth and final stage of treatment is filtration. And after filtration, the water goes to the pump station where we add chlorine to the water. Even though we disinfect the water with ozone, we are required by the New York State Health Department to provide a chlorine residual in our distribution system. Next slide. This graph here is showing you the 2019 monthly water consumption for the town of Newcastle and the village of Pleasantville. The green line on the bottom represents the village of Pleasantville's monthly water consumption, and that ranged from just a little over 20 million gallons in December, peaking at around 32 million gallons in September. The red line in the middle represents the town of Newcastle. Their water usage ranged from around 58 million gallons in December and peaked at around 117 million gallons in July. And the line on the top, the blue line, represents the total monthly water consumption from both sources, the Catskill and the Croton. Next slide, please. On this slide here, we're showing you the monthly average turbidities for raw water, DAF, and filter effluent. The line on top represents the raw water turbidity. The monthly averages range from around 0.9 NTUs in December to a high of about 2.71 in August. The line underneath that represents the DAF monthly turbidity averages, and they range from 0.09 to 0.12 NTUs for the month. And the red line on the bottom represents the filter effluent turbidity standards. The monthly filter effluent turbidity results that range from 0.02 to 0.02 to 0.029 NTUs. Next slide, please. On this slide here, we're comparing the monthly turbidity averages for the DAF and filter effluent with the effluent turbidity standard set by the New York State Health Department. That standard is 0.3. By looking at this chart, you can see that after the DAP process, the water treatment plant is already meeting the filter turbidity standards. Next slide, please. This slide is showing the town of Newcastle's corrosion control plan. The town is now required by the Westchester County Health Department to monitor distribution system weekly for pH, orthophosphate, which is used for lead and copper control, and alkalinity. The new Westchester County Health Department has set the parameters for pH at between 7 and 8.5, for orthophosphate greater than 8.5, 0.8 milligrams per liter, and the alkalinity between 2 and 45 milligrams per liter. On the chart, the yellow line on the bottom of the chart represents the orthophosphate residuals, and they range from 1.3 milligrams per liter to 1.6 milligrams per liter for the year. The line in the middle represents the pH on the distribution system, and that ranged from around 7.7 to 8.2, and then the line on top is the alkalinity ranges in our distribution system, which ranged from it was around 11 milligrams per liter to a high of about 32 milligrams per liter. Next slide, please. On this slide, we're comparing the 2019 budgeted costs for purchased water, electricity, chemical, and sludge with the actual cost. In 2019, we were 0.77% under budget for water, purchased water. We were 12.30% under budget for electricity, 17.65% under budget for chemicals, and we're on budget for sludge. Overall, we are 3.18% under budget for the year. We did well. Thank you. Next slide, please. Sorry. The minimum night rate study is a study that we conduct every month between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning, when water usage is at a minimum, to monitor the town of Newcastle and the Village of Pleasantville's distribution system for leaks. When we conduct the study, we'll shut down the Millwood Pump Station, Bedford Road Pump Station, Mount Peak Pump Station, and the Pleasantville Interconnection Pit. During that 2-hour period, we'll monitor the change in elevation in the Newcastle and Pleasantville storage tanks. We'll convert that change in elevation to gallons, and then convert that gallons to a percentage or a flow ratio of the daily water usage for that day. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. This chart here is showing you the monthly average turbidity flow ratio results for the town of Newcastle and the Village of Pleasantville. The line on the bottom represents the town of Newcastle's, and the usage, and the blue line represents the Village of Pleasantville. Next, please. In 2019, we had several projects and improvements that took place at the water treatment plant. There's three that we're going to discuss: the Alpine tank inspection, the inspection of the New York City DEP's inspection of the Catskill suction line, and then the Inwood pump station upgrade project. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the underwater camera that was used to inspect the inside of the Alpine storage tank. During the inspection, no major findings were found. Next slide, please. This is an inspection of the New York City DEP, or this is a picture of the New York City DEP inspecting the Catskill raw water suction riser that's inside the Catskill aqueduct. This is how the water enters the Millwood water plant. The water enters the water where you see those bars. The water enters the riser and is brought into the plant by a vacuum system. You can see that riser has been in that aqueduct probably since 1993, and you can see it's still in very good condition. Next slide, please. In 2019, most of our focus was put on the Inwood pump station upgrade project. The New York City DEP it's scheduled a shutdown of the Catskill aqueduct in December of 2020. The shutdown is scheduled to last at least 11 weeks. And during that 11-week period, the Inwood pump station would be our primary source of water. So to prepare for that shutdown, both of the pumps and motors at the Inwood pump station had to be pulled, inspected, refurbished, and then put back in place. And the work that the company that did the work for us was a company called Sulzer from New Jersey. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Stay there. I'm sorry. My fault. I just want to point out this is the crane that we had to use to pull the pump and motors out of the pump station. Each pump and motor probably weighed about around 35 ton. The picture on the right is showing the motor, one of the motors that was pulled from the pump station. Next slide, please. In this picture here, it shows the Sulzer crew placing the pump columns on top of the truck to be taken back to their shop for inspection, cleaning, and refurbishing. The picture on the right is showing one of the pump columns that are being placed back into the aqueduct. Next slide, please. This is a picture of one of the pump bases being lifted up and put back into the pump station after it's been repaired and refurbished.
How long is one of those pump columns, John?
How long is the pump columns?
Yeah.
Well, the entire length of the pump column is about 65 feet. Offhand, I can't remember how long each section of the column is.
Thanks.
Next slide, please.
John, I believe they're 10 feet long.
Yeah, okay, 10 feet, okay.
Yes.
A lot of
This
pieces.
here's a picture of what we call the wet end, or the impeller and suction, where the impeller and suction bowls are. The bottom of this suction bowl will sit probably 1.5 feet or more above the bottom of the New Croton aqueduct. The water comes in through the bottom of that suction bowl and then is traveled up through the pipe column by 5 impellers. If you look on the right, you'll see the new suction bowl and being put in place in the aqueduct, and you can see that there's 5 impellers in each one of those bowls that draw the water up the shaft to the pump station. And it has to draw the water up about 365 feet. Next slide, please. That is just a picture of the new shafts that were being placed inside the pipe assemblies in the aqueduct. And the picture on the right is showing one of the shafts that are being installed. Next picture, please. On the right, left-hand side is the impellers that are inside those suction bowls. As I mentioned, there's 5 impellers and 5 suction bowls, and each bowl has an impeller in it. The picture in the middle is showing the braces that support the pump shafts that go down into the aqueduct. And on the right-hand side is a picture of a pump shaft, I think, being pulled out. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the Suez's booth that was set up at the town of Newcastle's Community Day Fair last September. At the fair, we offered water to the fairgoers. We also handed out water bottles that are BPA free and tote bags that were made from recycled material. The Community Day Fair is a great opportunity for us to meet the residents and talk to them about their water treatment plant and answer any questions or concerns they might have. Next slide, please. A big part of what we do at the water plant is give tours. Tours are a great way to teach people about water treatment. Last year at the Millard Water Plant, we gave tours to Roaring Brook Elementary School, West Orchard Elementary School, Manhattan College, the City Colleges of New York, and the Chappaqua Girl Scouts. Next slide, please. Okay, that concludes our presentation for tonight. And now we can entertain you with any questions or answers, questions you might have.
So John, how often does the kind of refurbishment that you just showed of Inningwood need to happen?
I don't know how often it happens, but I know with the Inningwood pump station, we had to get it done. It would be our sole source of water for the next 11 weeks.
Right.
Hey, John,
Yes.
you just might want to mention about the chlorine and why this needs to be done sooner than later.
Well, in the past, before we pulled the pumps, the New York City DEP added chlorine to the New Croton water, and that chlorine is very corrosive, and it caused a lot of corrosion to occur on the equipment, the pumps and the shafts and the impellers and so forth. But now they've stopped adding chlorine to the New Croton water, so with these new parts and pumps and motors and stuff that are put back in place, they should last for a very long time.
And when you're drawing from Catskill, are you using the Inningwood pumps at all?
When we're drawing from the Catskill, we're not. The water comes in by gravity to the water treatment plant.
And so do they just get run periodically to keep them up to snuff, or what?
Yes, yeah, we actually ran one of the pumps at the Inningwood pump station today. Tested them. There has been a little change in the plan with the DEP. Their initial intention was to dewater the entire Catskill aqueduct for inspection and cleaning and maintenance, but they decided now to keep the aqueduct full of water from Millwood south. So as long as the Catskill Reservoir is kept at a high enough level, because the Catskill Aqueduct dumps into the Catskill Reservoir, if it's kept high enough, the elevation's kept high enough, we'll be able to continue to draw water from the Catskill Aqueduct, hopefully for the next 11 weeks until the project's done. But if we can't do that, then we have the alternative of going on to the Inwood pump station.
And how much advance warning would we have of that?
If we had to make the switch,
Mm-hmm.
well, we would make the switch right away. We don't want you to run out of water, but we would notify, probably the first person I would notify would be Jerry Morchell. And then,
but will there be any sort of leading indicator that will give us a sense of when we're approaching a water level that would need us to make that switch? The reason that I'm asking is that the residents in this community, and I'm not sure if Pleasantville had the same experience, but residents in this community were not super thrilled with the taste of the water when we made the switch. And despite all of our continued communications as to its excellence and the processes at the Millwood water treatment plant that ensured it was safe to drink, we still heard a lot of negative feedback. I mean, there were articles written about this in the Examiner. It was sort of shocking. So we're trying to do our best to avoid that. And our thought had been that we were going to communicate about this really early so that people had plenty of advance time, and especially during a pandemic, if they needed to go out and buy bottled water and keep it on hand and this and that. So we were ready to go to be like very proactive in our communications this year, only to find out that it might not come to pass, which is great news. But I just need to make sure that I give that I have enough lead time to be able to communicate if it's necessary to do so.
Okay, I'll make sure we do that. You mentioned that the water tasted funny. That's because of the algae that was in the water. At that time, we were adding potassium permanganate to try to curb some of that taste and odor problem that people were experiencing. But now, in addition to the K104, we're going to be adding hydrogen peroxide to the water to help remove the algae that's in the water.
And would you guess, John, that I mean, we certainly got the same feedback Ivy reported, people saying the water tastes funny. Do you think with that treatment, folks wouldn't notice, or it would still taste different to people?
I would say it's probably still going to taste a little different. I don't think it's going to taste as bad. But maybe Jerry Morchell would have a better answer on that one. I don't know.
So John, just to chime in here, I thought we did request from DEP that they provide us at least a week notice if they were going to shut down the Catskill and require us to go on to the new Croton Aqueduct. So if you could just confirm that with them, that was my understanding, was that we would have at least 1 week so that we could get some communication out to our residents about that. So just a note on New York City's operations, they are flowing the new Croton Aqueduct right now at 235 million gallons a day, and they are not getting complaints from their residents in the city. So there was 2 components in the water last year, the MIB and geosmin, that were at high levels, and that's what caused the taste and odor complaints. And New York City is not seeing those high numbers this year like they did last year. So we wouldn't expect it to be as severe as it is last year. Plus, I think we have a better handle on how to start our initial treatment process. Last year was the first time we'd used that water in a long time. We did make some tweaks along the way, and I think it improved that overall. So now we have a better baseline as to where we would start. So I hope that helps. Plus, we will reiterate with them, we want at least a week notice.
And the schedule for these shutdowns is the thing that drives the budget, right? Costs us a whole lot more to be pumping than not.
Correct.
And is that partly or significantly the cause of the good financial results from 2019? That is less pumping than anticipated, or how did that play out?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question, Mayor. I'm sorry.
So you showed substantially better than budget on a bunch of expenses, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Was that because you weren't pumping as much because of DEP's schedule, or was
no,
it a result of other reasons?
I think the reason was I think it was because we have to factor in the cost for fuel, diesel fuel for delivering the chemicals, and I think maybe we might have overestimated how much we thought the price of fuel was going to be. So I think that's why we were a little bit under budget for the year.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
You mentioned that New York State requires you to add chlorine at the end of the process in spite of the fact that
Yes,
you
yes, they do.
ozone. Could you expand on that a little bit more? You know, sort of explain to us the difference between how those two works, and you know, whether is there a chance that that might change in the future if ozone becomes more standard, or?
I don't think it's going to change in the future. We're required to provide a chlorine residual in a distribution, just in the event that there might be any bacteria that's in that water that can harm you.
Yeah, the ozone doesn't have the ability to retain a residual through over time, where the chlorine does.
Okay, that makes sense.
And now that we're nearly done with 2020, have you had significant capital upgrades in 2020?
Our big project coming up now is we have to begin replacing the anthracite and sand in our filter beds. So that's the project we're going to start taking on this winter. We've been doing we've been studying the wear on our anthracite and media for several years now, and last year we began to notice some wear on the media, and it's time now to begin replacing media before it's too late.
And so what is the plan now? What, pushing 30 years old? Is that?
Yeah, the plant went online in December or August of 1993. So it's going on 27 years.
And is there a lifespan to plants? I mean, is there a point at which a whole lot of money has to be spent?
I think if we manage the plant well and do our job correctly, we shouldn't expect a major I'm kind of losing it here. Sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize.
So it's just with the kind of constant maintenance you manifest this year and have in the past, we keep up with it, and the plant runs.
Correct. Keep up with our maintenance.
Point any of us imagine. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay.
The design life of the plant is approximately 75 to 100 years if it's properly maintained.
All right, that'll do it for me, and I think you, Jerry.
Yeah, but the whole point is that the plant staff and the town and village have spent at least $1 million a year in maintenance projects throughout the past 20 some odd years. So we've kept ahead of the maintenance and not deferred the maintenance. We just went out to bid to replace the two primary boilers for the plant, and they'll be installed in probably February or March, right, Paul?
Hopefully. Or are we going to be cold?
All right. Well, as I have thought every year, an impressive operation continuing to deliver quality water to all of us, and glad to be a partner with all of you at Suez, and certainly with our colleagues at the town of Newcastle.
Thank you. It's a pleasure working with everybody.
Thanks, Peter, and thanks to everybody from the Pleasantville Village Board for joining us for this presentation this evening.
Look forward to the tour next year.
Yes, I know. I love the tour.
Yeah, it's just no fair. Of course, there are lots of things that are no fair at the moment.
Virtual tour next year.
I love the flock. It's my favorite part.
Yeah. One of the
Apologize for-
attendees has a hand up. I don't know whether you want to take questions, Ivy.
Yep, that works for us. So Carrie, can we bring, this is James Annunziato. James, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. You will correct me when you get on the call.
Just unmute yourself. James, if you'd like to speak, you just need to unmute yourself and we should be able to hear you.
We're talking about the maintenance of the plant, but what about the rest of the water infrastructure, the piping and that? I'm in the unincorporated areas of Pleasantville, and every time there's a water main break, we get stuck with the bill, all the residents. Now, isn't, normally utilities put money aside from the revenue that they've got in order to maintain the system, but it appears that that isn't being done.
So let me respond to that. First off, that issue has nothing to do with the good folks here at Newcastle.
Well, but nobody knows who owns the pipes.
Right. So the problem we have, and it dates back decades, is that our water system extends beyond the village of Pleasantville borders, and bonding and capital improvements are going to have to take place on the Mount Pleasant side. We cannot bond and undertake these capital improvements outside our borders. So as you probably know, we're in the midst of a discussion with the town of Mount Pleasant about using their forces for repairs to try to reduce the cost to homeowners. But I think the longer term question is going to involve some sort of a water district that needs to get created.
Well, that's been, Carl Genzi has presented that quite a while ago.
Right.
And it's never been addressed.
Well, it would be, it's not something the village of Pleasantville can do. We certainly will continue to supply water as we do and respond to breaks as we do, but we're in the midst of a discussion which has ebbed and flowed for probably 50 years over this problem, but it isn't in our court to solve it. So.
Okay, I thought this was a meeting between, a water meeting.
Well, it is, but what we're talking about is the source of the water that you ultimately receive.
Oh, yeah, but it's coming from Newcastle.
Correct, because the village of Pleasantville is a partner with Newcastle in that supply. So if there's any good news for folks in your circumstance, it's that you're getting high quality water.
Yeah, but at a very premium price.
Yes.
Which doesn't include the maintenance of the infrastructure like other utilities.
Understood.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If we have any other folks, I see a couple of other attendees. If anybody else has a question, while we have the experts from the Millwood Water Treatment Plant on the line, we'd be happy to take any questions that you have. Great, we have another person with their hand raised. Carrie, if you want to bring them in. Mr. Robert Cooney.
Or you just need, there you go.
Yeah, hi. General question for John Young. Mount Pleasant doesn't treat their water. They're working under the waiver at present. How much spare capacity? What percent do you have at the plant now? Does typical day you're running at 60% of what you think the capacity is?
Yeah,
like
right now
wanted to sign up.
The water treatment plant right now is rated for 10 MGD. Our average flow right now is about 2.5 MGD during this time of year. During the summer, our flow will get up to about water usage will get up to about it'll range from anywhere from 5 to 6 MGD during the summer. So during the summer, we're probably running at 3/4 capacity. During the
And
winter.
your capacity is about 10, you said?
I'm sorry, sir, what was that?
You said the capacity was about 10?
10 MGD.
Yeah, okay.
And Our yearly average is about 3.4 MGD, but again, during the summer, we're using anywhere from around 5 to 6 MGD during the summer, and we're down to 2.5 to 3.5 MGD during the winter.
Did Mount Pleasant ever talk to you at all about getting water from the plant?
No.
I can report that back in the 90s, there was discussion with Briarcliff, Mount Pleasant, a bunch of people, and they did not elect to participate. So,
Yeah, I was at a critical meeting at one point back about 1995, and they were squirming. They just didn't want to do it. So, but the water's pretty bad. That's all I have.
So I think that's all of the questions that we've, all the hands we had raised and all the questions that we've received at this point. If any of the other board members have any questions, otherwise I think we can thank Mr. Young and the folks from Suez for their time and attention as always.
Apologize for the audio problems I had. It kind of got me off to a bad start tonight.
It happens, John. It's 2020.
Hopefully I'll do a better job next year.
right, exactly, right.
You're gonna have a bad year. This is the one to have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thank you for that, John and Jerry and company. And I see Jeff Econom on the call as well. Thank you, Jeff. I know you're in the middle of the discussion. Thank you, Bart, everybody. So.
All right, until next year.
All right. Let's not make it that long.
For the tour.
and how about at least the stake in the ground that we imagine we'll be all together in a year instead of on Zoom. So
You're here.
thanks.
We're with you.
Appreciate it.